KIDO Talk Radio, blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio, joined by our great friend Lars Larson, the Lars Larson Show. You can catch him weeknights 6 to 9 right here on KIDO Talk Radio. Lars, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you today?
Boy, we've been talking about the Stormy Daniels SNL bid and Rudy Giuliani. Your thoughts on the day ahead, sir?
Well, look, the whole mess over Stormy Daniels, I don't know if the president had some sexual involvement with her or not. And I don't think most people who voted for Trump care what happened a decade ago or allegedly happened a decade ago. I'm not sure they even think it's that surprising that celebrities, whether they're political celebrities, business celebrities, or Hollywood celebrities, occasionally will pay some money to make sure that people don't go out and tell embarrassing stories, whether they're real or not. The assumption that her story must be real because money was paid is really foolish, and it suggests that people don't understand how some things work in the law. I don't like the way it works, but I'll give you an example. A gentleman I used to work with who worked a day job as an assistant manager at a grocery store, but his weekend job was a weather guy, so I worked with him as a weather guy on television. And he said, we have to pay off slip and falls all the time. Somebody comes into the store, pretends to slip and fall, usually in the produce aisle where there's a little water on the floor. And I said, how would you handle those? He said, we'd just, usually it costs $500-600 to get rid of them. In other words, they get a letter from the lawyer, and the lawyer would say, my client slipped and fell. And they'd say, this is a person who's done this all over town. We know this is a scam. But if it's $500 to make it go away, or $5,000 to walk into court and try to prove that it's not true, and you always have the chance of losing that case, too, in front of a jury, which one do you think the company does? Now, you and I could say, well, you should fight every single one of them. Well, not sure that would go over well with your boss when you said, hey, boss, let's fight a few of these at $5,000 a piece instead of making them go away at $500 a piece. So whether Donald Trump had a sexual one-nighter with Stormy Daniels or not, we don't know. And you don't know simply because his attorney paid the money. But if the money was paid, the argument is made by the Democrats that this was a campaign donation because Donald Trump would have only paid this woman off, or his attorney paid her off on his behalf, because he was running for office. I don't think that's true at all. I think there are lots of people in Donald Trump's position, whether he ran for president or not, who would have paid for somebody's silence. Now, it's offensive to people like you and me, but, Kevin, you and I aren't famous enough to have anything like this happen to us.
Sure.
Nor are we rich enough to pay for it. But I think it is the reality for big name celebrities like Donald Trump. And we all have to remember he was a huge celebrity in America long before he ran for president. So does this weigh on whether or not he's president? Or not, whether or not he'll be impeached or not. Because remember, the Democrats have been talking impeachment since the 9th of November 2016, the day after the election. They've been saying, we want to impeach this guy. We just need a good reason. And there was a guy who worked for Vladimir Lenin, Beria, who said, show me the man and I'll find the crime. In other words, if you look hard enough, you can find something wrong with everybody out there. And I think that Rudy Giuliani was right to say this is an issue that's out there. We need to deal with it. So he dealt with it. They got the information out that Trump's attorney took care of this, and that Trump's regular payments of a retainer to his attorney took care of that. And I think when Trump made the comment toward the latter part of last week that this happens all the time, Kevin, I'll bet it does happen all the time. And do you know why you never hear stories about it? Because most of the time when some celebrity, whether it's a movie star, music star, or whatever, pays this money for silence, they get it. Now, you can say it's wrong, but I would imagine that celebrities out there who have a young lady or a young man accuse them of the same kind of thing Stormy Daniels is saying, when their manager says, well, we can pay a couple of $1,000 or a few thousand or a few tens of thousands to make this go away, or you can get dragged into court over it. Which one would you like to do?
Our great friend Lars Larson joining us, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. So, Lars, it's interesting how people are panning what Rudy Giuliani said. It was as if he was speaking an entirely different language then George Stephanopoulos was speaking as well. They were both talking at each other, but I agree with you. This is the world that Donald Trump and these big celebrities live in, and yet I love how Stephanopoulos was saying, well, he lied, and, we can go back to Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and others.
He didn't.
Right.
He didn't.
Right.
And the thing is, when Donald Trump was asked, did you know about the payment to her? And he said, no. It's probably true. I mean, I think it was true because Donald Trump pays Michael Cohen to deal with a whole bunch of things. And I asked my producers the day this came out, and they said, well, it sounds like he lied. And I said to my executive producer, Carl, I only work with three guys on my little team. And I said, Carl, do you occasionally turn down an interview for the show? And he says, yeah, I do it all the time. We get lots and lots of offers. I said, do you tell me about every one of them that you've turned down? He said, no, I know some of them are ones you don't want to do. That they fall outside of my area of either expertise or interest. Somebody pitches us, would you like to do a story on this new dog food bowl for puppies or whatever? And then I said, do you need to tell me about them to deal with them? And he said, no. And I said, I trust you to take care of those things. Now, if something big comes along, Carl may say yes on my behalf without talking to me. Well, he'll talk to me about it later, but if we're offered Mike Pence to talk to on Wednesday, Carl doesn't even need to ask me to know the answer is yes. Now, you might find that funny, but all of us have people we trust to take care of things for us. And again, Kevin, I think this goes outside of your direct experience and my direct experience because I don't live in the kind of stratosphere like Trump and a lot of these other celebrities do, where you have people who their task is to say yes and no to them or for them without even talking to them. And in this case, I think here's what happened. I think Stormy Daniels took a bunch of money to keep the story from being sold to somebody else. Her attorney probably contacted Michael Cohen and said, look, my client's being offered $80,000 for a story. And what's it worth to your client to make the story go away? And Cohen considered what was being offered and what was being asked and made a decision. Now, do you think that it's likely that whether the story is true or not, that a young lady tried to make some money on it? We know about those kinds of stories. In fact, the ones we forget about are the ones where somebody makes an accusation against anyone, including in the last couple of years, Donald Trump. And then later on, we never hear another word about that story. Well, where did that story go? Well, it was either dealt with through a settlement or it went away because the person making the accusation didn't have any substance behind the accusation. So they let it drop. Now, in Stormy Daniels, Stephanie Clifford's case, does she have anything to lose by making this accusation?
No.
No. In fact, does she have something to gain, even if she never gets another check, does she have something to gain by making the accusation? Do you think that there are now hundreds of millions of Americans who recognize her name and know who she is, who never knew who she was before? I didn't know who Stormy Daniels was before she made the accusation against Trump. I don't watch the kind of movies that she does. So all of a sudden, she's a famous star on the world stage now. Her shows, showing up at a strip club somewhere to do a celebrity appearance, are now worth a ton of money. And they weren't worth a dime, or they weren't worth nearly as much before she made this accusation. So she has everything to gain by making the accusation true or not. She has nothing to lose by making the accusation true or not. So she did it.
Well, and then she was on SNL, and I love what Giuliani said. Come on, give me a break. If you're an aggrieved party, why are you on Saturday Night Live? And then her attorney coming on, going after Giuliani. What do you make of the attacks on Rudy?
I think the attacks on Rudy are like the attacks on everybody else who is connected with this president of the United States, Gina Haspel, who's was tempted to pull out her name in nomination for the position I think she's completely suited for in the government, because they say, well, she was involved in waterboarding terrorists, to which I say, bravo, good. I'm glad we did it on a very, very limited basis, and that brought up information we never would have learned any other way. But everyone who is connected in any way, shape, or form to Donald Trump is going to be attacked And what they're trying to, when I say they, I mean the Democrats, the president's opponents. What they want to do is make it so toxic to have any connection to Donald Trump that he can't get anyone to work with him, or that his choices are severely limited. And let me tell you why. Because we have an election coming up in November. The Democrats think they can win this election, and what are they up against? A president whose approval ratings are rising. Donald Trump's approval ratings are actually higher at this point in his presidency than George W. Bush's approval ratings were at the same point in his presidency. And why? We have an economy that is now growing a minimum of 50% faster than it did during the entire 8 years of the Obama administration. It's almost to 200% faster. But it's at least 50% or 100% faster. It's at least 50% faster. We grow less than 2% a year for 8 years under Obama. We're now growing over 3% per year. That, to the people who listen to your show, Kevin, that makes a tremendous difference in the paychecks they get, the opportunities for advancement within their companies they get. And I'm talking about everybody, top to bottom. You're working at a small engine shop or a small mechanic shop, and the boss might want to expand his business. Under the Obama economy, he didn't, because the economy wasn't growing that fast. Now, the economy has taken off. And when it does, more people need their cars and trucks repaired. So for everybody from the top of the economy to the bottom of the economy, there is great opportunity in this. Second, this is a president who appears to be this close to pulling off the impossible with North Korea, something that had been declared essentially we'll just keep talking to them like we have been for the last 25 years. That wasn't doing any good. And when Donald Trump began to talk about North Korea, everybody, all the smartest people in the room said, you can't talk that way about North Korea. You can't talk that way about the North Korean leader. And he did, and guess where it's brought him? To a meeting in a month or so with the leader of North Korea, to the promise to release 3 American captives, to the possibility of denuclearizing the North Korean peninsula, and maybe even ending a war that has only been in an armistice stage for the last 2/3 of a century. Now, he pulls off the impossible there. So he pulls off, and he's been tough with Russia. He's been tough with Syria. He's been tough with the terrorists, and it's showing. The best Barack Obama promised toward the tail end of his presidency was, we will try to contain ISIS. In other words, you go to your doctor and you say, well, you got an infection. What's the big? Can we cure it? No, we can't cure it, but we'll contain it. It'll only take off your left leg or your right leg. You wouldn't accept that from your doctor, but Obama said, we'll just contain this infection called ISIS. Donald Trump has essentially defeated ISIS at this point. You don't hear almost daily headlines about ISIS anymore because they've been devastated by what Donald Trump has allowed the military to do. Now, the actual on-the-ground work was done by American men and women in uniform, but it took a commander-in-chief with the guts to actually let it happen. You want to run as a Democrat against that? The only thing that will save the Democrats in the election this fall is that all of the mainstream media, instead of focusing on North Korea and the success there, instead of focusing on the success against the terrorists, instead of focusing on how good the economy is right now and how much it promises to be even better, they're saying the biggest story in America and the most consequential one to everyone who watches them or listens to them is Stormy Daniels. Now, please. Or the Russia investigation, which now in June we hit 2 full months that the U.S. government has been investigating alleged Russian collusion by Donald Trump, and they have come up with 0. So if you're running against that and you say, gosh, I'm running for office, for re-election or for election, and we've got a president who has dramatically improved the lot of every single American, changed the tax laws for the first time in 1/3 of a century, brought about the prospect of peace in North Korea, been tough with the terrorists, and you want to impeach him because of something one woman says happened on one night in a hotel room and whether or not he paid for her silence. Tell me how that works.
Well, I can't wait to hear you tonight at 6. Our great friend Lars Larson joining us. Lars, look forward to it, and thank you once again for making yourself available today.
It's always my pleasure, Kevin. Take care.
All right, Lars Larson joining us. Quickly to Liberty Lindo with Kevin Miller here at KIDO Talk Radio. That's a tough act to follow.
Oh, yeah, and he has a great show. He's been great for KIDO. We really like listening to him. Anyway, I agree with him. You know, what they're trying to do, these liberals, is throw something up against the wall, and if it sticks, they'll use it. You know, they've tried to push this Russian thing on us, and we're also tired of that, so now they brought up the Stormy thing. And it doesn't look like it's going to stick very much longer, Kevin.
No, I think Stormy is on her way out.
I think so, too. And anyway, so, well, we'll have to just wait and see what the next thing is that will stick against the wall.
I would agree with you. So, what about the governor's race? It's coming to an end.
Well, gee, let's see. We're going to have a big party after that. How that sounds like fun.
We're going to be a breakfast at Terry's in Meridian, yes.
I know. I've got it down on my calendar. Well, let's see now. Who am I going to vote for? Well, let's see. I think Tommy Alquist. A good conservative. He'll be a wonderful governor for us. Anyway, that's who I'm for.
Well, we know who you're for, but what do you hear on the streets? Anything?
Oh, a lot of my friends, yes, are telling me that they're going to vote for Tommy. That's what I'm hearing on the street. Well, not on the street, but in church. Different places that I go to. So anyway, yeah. And, you know, really, we have some wonderful people here in Idaho running. I do have to say that. We have some marvelous people in Idaho. Idahoans are marvelous people. But, you know, I prayed about it. I'm for Tommy Alquist. I think he'll be a wonderful conservative governor, and he'll do wonderful things for this state. And also, I'm with you about the self-driving cars, Kevin.
Right.
You know, individuals have that second human instinct that an inanimate object just does not have. And I think that's the difference between the two. I'd rather have a person behind the wheel.
Liberty Lindo, we'd rather have you behind the wheel.
Well, give me a brand new car, and that sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for listening. You have a great day.
You too, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day yourself.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Coming up next, how to bring both political parties together for the good of the Gem State. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Over the weekend, you had Rudy Giuliani going after Stormy Daniels. Your calls, your views at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Really hard to feel sorry for this young lady. If she was really traumatized, why is she on Saturday Night Live, Mr. Mayor?
God, if I were her lawyer, I'd be very upset. Fame and fortune. Let me make money. How is she damaged? She's become rich as a result of this. $130,000 doesn't mean anything. Boy, I wish that was my case.
I wish it was your case as well.
Gee, I'm not really involved in the Daniels thing, so I don't know. I mean, he denies that it happened. She has written a letter denying it.
Right. So there we have it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let me just say this, that I'm a registered Republican. We cheer for both political parties, but one team is the home team. And just the differences that we have, you have other folks that, you know, they have their own issues. But when it comes to supporting the president, when it comes to supporting the Republican agenda, this is your home right here at KIDO Talk Radio, whether it's myself or Sean Hannity or Lars Larson. This is our team. And when you have people trying to get rid of the president, you know, and then you have others that, you know, hey, let's do this, let's do that. No. Clearly, we are here to stand for what is right. And after the May 15th primary, by the way, we will be broadcasting live that night at the Riverside. Looking forward to that. And then partnering with the State Republican Party on May 17th, we invite you to join us for a unity breakfast with all the friends, all the candidates. As win, lose, or draw, people come together to do the right thing. And the right thing is to elect Republicans. Traffic and weather together at KIDO. And by the way, if you're a person that watches TBS, there's a new documentary tonight called No Man's Land. That will be their version of what happened in Oregon and Burns at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge that left Lavoy Finnegan dead and others imprisoned. That will be on PBS tonight. Now, they have it at 10 o'clock East Coast time. I don't know if it'll be 8 o'clock our time or if we're going to have to wait till 10 o'clock, but it promises to be another insight into what happened in Oregon. We look forward to checking that out and getting your thoughts on this. Coming up, we'll hear from Hank, Tea Party Bob, and Timmy with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Stay tuned. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
And before we get to Hank and Tea Party Bob, we go live to the White House. That's right, the White House with Fox News Radio's John Decker on KIDO Talk Radio. John, what a busy weekend we had. Never mind the weekend review. What about Saturday night?
Well, the president, let's talk about what just happened over the course of the past morning or so. The president very active on Twitter, talking about his CIA nominee, Gina Haspel, and fighting for her. She's got a very tough confirmation hearing coming up this coming Wednesday before the Senate Intelligence Committee. She offered on Friday to pull out of her nomination because of tough questions that are expected to be asked of her regarding the CIA's enhanced interrogation techniques that they carried out on terrorists that she oversaw. So you have that. And I'm also weighing in on this upcoming West Virginia Republican primary, which takes place tomorrow. That will determine who runs against Joe Manchin in the November general election. So President very active, talking about, not only his cabinet, but also trying to hold on to the U.S. Senate, maybe even trying to pick up a seat in West Virginia.
It's interesting, the Manchin-Trump relationship there, and, how active will they be in supporting the Republican nominee against a guy that seeks to survive in the pro-Trump world, in a pro-Trump state now?
Oh, absolutely. And it certainly is a pro-Trump state. You could certainly argue that it's the most pro-Trump state. President Trump won West Virginia by 40 points in the November 2016 presidential election. And that's one of the reasons why the president continues to take trips to West Virginia, because he's got so much support there. So the president weighing in, there's 3 individuals vying for the Republican nomination. The president saying, don't pick one of them, a guy by the name of Blankenship, who's actually served prison time because he would be the weakest of the candidates to take on Joe Manchin. And the president, his political team think that this is possibly one of those races where the Republicans can actually pick up a Republican seat in November. But let me tell you, Joe Manchin's a very good politician. He's served as governor of the state of West Virginia as a Democrat, also as the senator from West Virginia. So he individually is well liked. The big question here is, what impact will the president have on first the primary, but also the general election in November?
Of course, over the weekend, we had a couple of rulings against the special counsel. We had another appearance by Rudy Giuliani. We had Stormy Daniels on Saturday Night Live. A lot going on during John Decker's 2 days off.
Yeah, it's never a quiet day because there's something going on. The president traveling on Saturday day out to Cleveland, touting the tax cut legislation that he signed in December of 2017. Of course, that's the biggest legislative achievement, Kevin, of the president's time in office, and it's what Republicans in the House and the Senate will run on in the midterm election. So that's the reason why the president touting it in Ohio, of course, the battleground state in 2016, a state the president won, and one the president is counting on keeping in his column when he runs for re-election in 2020.
John Decker, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to your time in the Senate. Reports over the weekend that it's not looking good for John McCain, the book coming out, the HBO documentary coming out. Your thoughts on Senator McCain and his impact into to American history, sir?
Well, I think we've spoken about this before. I'm a big fan of John McCain. I think he's a true American hero. And I do some work for the McCain Institute, which he established after he lost the presidential election race back in 2008. It's affiliated with Arizona State University. And, over the years, I've gotten to know Senator McCain very well. So you're talking to somebody who thinks just so highly of Senator McCain and, what he's going through right now. And I just think it's just really unfortunate. But he is certainly making his feelings known, in terms of a number of issues, meeting with old friends like Senator Joe Biden was out visiting him in Sedona, Arizona over the past week. And Senator McCain, as you mentioned, coming out with a book, and there's going to be a documentary which will air on HBO in in short order. So for those, in your audience who aren't familiar with the life story of John McCain and sort of the background that he sort of had to live up to, his father a Navy admiral, his grandfather a Navy admiral, I think it's worth watching those documentaries and reading the book also when it hits the bookstores.
Right. John Decker, we appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a great day.
Our great friend John Decker joining us. Let's go back to your calls. And we go to Hank in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank.
Good morning. I might point out that Brad Little is being sponsored by the Prosperity Fund of the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry. And it was basically the partnership of their Prosperity Fund, their political action fund, that in partnership with Governor Otter that was targeted conservative legislators across the state. A couple of conservatives that were defeated were, of course, Lenore Hardy Berry, for an example, Pete Nielsen over in Elmore County, and there were others. And it was enough to change, enough liberals were elected or moderates or liberals by the Prosperity Fund to change the speakership from Lawrence Denny to Scott Betke. And a lot of and of course we got stuck with the only red state that got stuck with the red exchange, compliments of Governor Otter and IACI, and Brad Little's campaign is being sponsored by the Prosperity Fund. Anybody who considers themselves a conservative should consider Brad Little radioactive.
Thank you for that unsolicited comment on Brad Little.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. When I heard the Prosperity Fund, is sponsored by the Prosperity Fund, I can guarantee you this man, anybody being sponsored by him is no conservative. And the fact that they jam these state exchanges down, and the fact that
now wait a minute, Luke Malik and Governor Otter fought Obama. That's what they say on their ads.
Oh. Yeah, they couldn't cooperate more, and not only that, but they also went in for another little Obama initiative, which is actually for, and that's Medicaid expansion. Believe you me,
what do you make of the Medicaid expansion? Somehow got 60 or 80,000 legit signatures. You believe that?
Well,
Who funded that referendum?
Well, I'll tell you what. If you hire enough people, and again, I'll guarantee you, if you investigate the thing, the Prosperity Fund was behind that. If you hire enough signatures, petition people, enough people in the street, you can get enough signatures for anything. But it takes money to build an organization to get the signatures, and I'll guarantee you, IACI was probably up to their eyeballs in that one too, and the governor was probably up to his eyeballs in that one because I think it's another church.
How do you see this race playing out with just a little over a week left?
I think right now that it's probably going to be Labrador with probably Brad Little coming in second and Alquist coming in third. I thought for a second that Brad was going to run third, but I think Brad's running well in some of the in Twin Falls, it seems from the indicators I'm getting, and also I've seen in the wealthier upper crust areas where the Republicans up there are splitting between Brad and Alquist up there, like you go to the Highlands or some of the other more upper crust areas of Boise. But I also see in the flatlands where Labrador tends to dominate more, and I also think that he's got a good secure base in the first district to begin with, where the others do not have this wide a part of the state. And I think that I think the large part of the Mormon vote will be split between Alquist and Labrador on that. And I think that in the end, Labrador will probably win. But there's enough improbables where you can't say everything is. There's enough there is up in the air. You can't say that with 100% certainty.
All right, Hank, thank you for the call. Tea Party Bob joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. I just wanted to say a few words about the Democrats' protest of this Idahoan newspaper, which it seems most people in Idaho received in their mailboxes last week. Mailing this paper must have cost a small fortune. And these Democrats are so stupid, they don't get the fact that this is probably the only publication that has ever put the names of all the candidates, both Democrat and Republican, in front of the people of Idaho in one fell swoop. This is more advertisement for the Democrats than they would have paid for themselves. Here, this paper offers the citizens of Idaho an opportunity to see who is running for office in both parties, and the Democrats are screaming foul. It's no wonder they lose just about every election they run in. They should be praising this publication, even if they did endorse all conservative Republicans. The paper at least gave an equal opportunity for the voters to see who the opposition is and what they were about. Where else in Idaho can you find a comprehensive list of all the candidates running in a primary election than in this newspaper? You know, you sure won't find it in the liberal media papers that we have in our state. They just don't care. That's why everybody's so up in arms. They never thought of it. This is why the Democrats lose elections in Idaho. They can't recognize when someone is trying to be reasonable, fair, and balanced. If I were a Democrat, I would be praising the people who published this paper since they presented all the candidates instead of just one party. By the way, that was a great picture of you on page 3. At first, I thought you were running for office.
Well, we appreciate the folks at the Idahoan for their work. And like you said, it doesn't cost you anything. It comes to your mailbox. And, you know, it's preposterous that the libs are mad, the establishment people are mad. Everybody's mad. Well, a week from tomorrow, you can be mad at the ballot box and see what happens.
Just like I said, you can't fix stupid.
So how do you see this playing out the last about 8 days left here?
I'm kind of in Hank's camp. I kind of see things very similar to the way he does. You're going to get the Democratic strongholds and the places down here that I would even see some of the people voting for, the Democrats voting for some Republicans. But I do think it's going to be Labrador, maybe by a hair, maybe by 3 or 4 or 5 percentage points. Brad Little and Tommy are pretty much splitting a lot of the vote themselves. And Brad has, I guess, been moving up over the last couple of weeks. Lord knows he has enough commercials on. But Labrador's got the base. He's got that fixed base. He wins these elections in the first district by very large margins in most cases. And I think that's going to carry through. And all he needs to do is to carry a small percentage of the rest of the state, and I think he's going to have it. You got to remember that the biggest counties are in the 1st Congressional District. The 3 largest counties are in the 1st Congressional District, and I think that's going to be very meaningful. But we'll have to see what happens.
All right. Tea Party Bob with a look at the election. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
And by the way, you can check out the Tea Party Bob's Gem State Patriot. They've come out with their list of endorsements, which is where we are right now between now and Glenn Beck. And don't forget Dave Ramsey today, noon to 3. Sean Hannity will bring you home. Lars Larson, if you haven't had a chance to check out Lars Larson, you should. We have him on every Monday. Great guy from the Northwest. Really gives a Northwest conservative perspective on the issues of the day. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And we appreciate you listening. In God we trust. In America, Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget, Glenn Beck coming up next. Dave Ramsey and Sean Hannity along with Lars Larson. Sean and Lars will take you home. And here we're talking about a few issues at 580-5436-580-KIDO. Do want to remind you, coming up this week, we'll be at St. Ignatius School, once again in Meridian, Idaho. We will be there promoting our school, securing our future. If you're not familiar with that program, you can go to our website to get much more information, brought to you by Gray Powered Learning, located in Meridian, also Cap Ed Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. And once this election is over, we are urging folks from every point of view, every strain of conservatism, to come together to join us for a unity breakfast at Terry's Cafe in Meridian. That will be on the 17th. Now, it's going to be some action-packed couple weeks coming up here with yours truly, Kay Milley at KIDO Talk Radio. We're going to be covering the primary that night. We'll be doing some cut-ins, talking to the folks, because everybody who's anybody is going to be there. The next day, your reaction to what happened. May 17th, the Unity Breakfast. We'll be at Terry's Cafe, where we urge everyone that has run in this primary, win, lose, or draw, to join us. And we're inviting everybody who's run for office, who's worked for somebody who's run for office, who is all politicked out. Because remember, this is just the end of the primary. Then you've got the summer and you've got the November general elections. We want to thank our friends at Terry's Cafe in Meridian. We will be there. And then we will take part, along with the state Republican Party, with a unity rally at the State House steps. And like I said, we love when people engage. And people have been, critical of this primary. We've had people being critical of the ads. As I've said before, the most effective way of reaching the voting people in a primary is talk radio, is this station. Because you're inclined, those people that listen to this program, particularly this one, are inclined to vote. You're not going to have passive people. And so we will see how this plays out. Those people that have been on with us, I think we've had just about everybody on. If we haven't, for the major offices, we apologize for the other offices that we didn't get on. We wanted to play the hits, if you will. But we shall see if people come together. Because somewhere, whether it's deep in the bowels of Boise, Idaho, whether it's in Washington, D.C., you have some of the Democrats getting together. And rightfully so. They want to make sure that they're competitive. You've got a ton of people moving in, perhaps a lot of libs. Now, there's nothing wrong with libs. We can agree to disagree. Now, some libs want to eliminate talk radio, and those people we have a problem with, especially local talk radio. However, you've got a lot of growth coming in. Hopefully, we will maintain what we have right now. We will have the order that will continue to be here, and we won't have to restore the order. However, you're going to have people coming together and saying, look at what happened with the state Republican Party, and look at them. They're fractured. Their candidate didn't win, so they're going to sit home, sit on their hands. We can't have that happen. If there's one thing that Kevin is campaigning for is unity, is bringing people together. The last time, a Democrat was elected in this state was 1990, I believe. Do you want that to happen? Do you want that to happen in Congress as well? Because forces are aligning. And it's not up to them, it's up to us to determine how we respond to that. More on that in a minute. Traffic and Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone numbers 580-5436. Coming up next, Glenn Beck, Dave Ramsey, Sean Hannity, and, of course, Lars Larson will bring you home. But back to this point, though, and, how we differentiate ourselves is we root for the home team. And our team is conservatism, is the Republican Party, and we hope to see that people turn out and make that happen. There are a lot of people that, have their own opinions and that sort of thing. But for us, we want to be with the winning team. So we hope, and we're going to do our very best to make sure that all parties are unified, because it's very easy to tear down. What we try to do, whether it's with the schools or Miller's Mission, will be at the end of the month, is to show what we're for. And in the Treasure Valley, we have so much to be thankful for and to continue to fight on. By the way, we do need to look at this housing situation. So if you have any ideas on that, give me an email at kevin@kidiotalkradio.com. Ray Amaya, great job as always. And may God bless you and your family, and keep the faith.